Hey, you guys. Welcome at Dropsolid ETV. Today's webinar is about moving beyond CMS and building your DXP in an open approach. My name is Leen. I am the marketing director at Dropsolid, and I'm very happy today to introduce to you our speaker and Dropsolid CTO, Nick Veenhoff. But just before we start, a few housekeeping rules. As a participant, you are not able to speak or unmute your microphone during the webinar. But of course, if you have any questions during the presentation, do not hesitate and please use the chat. The chat is on the right-hand upper corner of the screen. The presentation will take about 30 minutes, so for sure we will have some time afterwards to answer your questions. And as some of you might have already seen, there's also a poll in the right upper corner, right next to the chat. And I invite you to have a quick look at it and to answer the poll right away so that Nick can still adapt the focus of the webinar to tailor to your most pressing needs. So the question is, in which area are you most interested? Is it personalization? Is it artificial intelligence, marketing automation, or cloud hosting? Those are all areas that we will cover in today's presentation. So with that, I would like to give the floor to Nick to start the session. Enjoy.
Hi everybody. Welcome at this session of Moving Beyond CMS, Enter DXP. What we're going to cover is obviously the word CMS and the word DXP, one meaning content management system, which needs to be extended into a digital experience platform. You could wonder, what does it really mean? That's exactly what we're trying to tackle here today. So I'm Nick, I'm the CTO at Dropsolid. I've been active in the Drupal open source community for over 13 years, but also active in the Multimatic open source community, lived and worked in Boston, Barcelona, Lisbon, Belgium. Have a very broad interest. I'm a bit sad that travel is restricted in these days, but we'll survive. Interested in open technology, travel, and web. So what technologies will we cover? And also I'll dive into the problem space, obviously. We'll cover a bit of Drupal 9, Matic, nomi, which is a CDP or an open source CDP. If time allows us, we'll have a concept bonus about Next.js, decoupled websites, and everything of the above. And then also a GDPR bonus, a Drupal, and how do you manage the cookie consent with Google Tag Manager. So what's the end goal of a website? It's oftentimes too easy to look at an e-commerce website and say, okay, the end goal of a website is to sell products. That's obviously not always the case. There's many websites where selling is not the main goal, and it's actually to inform people or to get leads for a specific business that is not necessarily a product. So time on site, conversions, those kind of measurements, that makes sense. It could also be that the end goal of a website is for the content editor to be happy. Now, we'll take a look at Drupal 9 and what it means in layout builder land. If you are familiar with Drupal, you probably know the concept of paragraphs in Drupal 9. This is shifting towards WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get editor experience for the content editor to actually add structured data as you go in the front end while creating your landing pages and still see what you're doing. So this is important because, as you can see, I added some image on the left, I'm adding a text on the right, I'm adding some unique selling points because that's a structure that is available in my website, and I have it on the left and on the right. I'm choosing to add a little text in between, which I can do because these are just separate blocks that either they go in two columns or in one single column. And I'll quickly go over this. That's a little text. It then goes further, and this is valid for the rest of the presentation. There's a couple of videos in there, and I'll try to fast forward a bit depending on the time that we have. In this case, now I'm adding another image, but ultimately, what we have is some text, and then actually I wasn't happy with the text, and I'm dragging and dropping the text from below to the middle. So very interesting concepts to really work with your page as you expect. as soon as you're ready, or drag and drop a couple of other things. You can add perhaps backgrounds. And if we fast forward a little bit more, we are ready to save our page. So that's how it looks like. And after saving, we see exactly what we created. So great editorial experiences, which is perfect, but it doesn't really get us to the point where we want to be. So why do we build websites? It's to really deliver that experience, to make sure that you can build up the brand that you're working for, to make sure that people come back, you keep them engaged, and you can actually use tools such as marketing automation or personalization to increase that. But what that does all mean. Okay. Now, we could sell products. I mentioned that. Oh, sorry. That's a mistake from my part. So yeah, we could sell products. We could find the right product, but it's more about actually, do you really get where you want to be as an end user on that website? And are you actually getting a conversion from the business point of view in whatever that may be? So what is happening? Exactly what I mentioned. We're moving beyond that editorial experience, even though it's very crucial, it's not enough. So also Gartner said, okay, the CMS quadrant is now gone. It's replaced with a DXP quadrant. And we can also see that in those 5 mastodons of companies like Adobe, Sitecore, Acquia. And what we see, and I'll analyze a little bit together with you, is that they're focusing really on this customer marketing analytics, personalized marketing, and front-end experience layer. Okay, there's also a bunch of integrations and security, and it's very important here with Adobe that it's so big, but that's already the case if we talk about Drupal. It's very strong in terms of integration. Sitecore, similar. We can see that they have a whole analytics, insight, decision, and automation pillar on top of whatever is already content, which is only available here on the top left. So also assets and customer data, very important at Sitecore. For Acquia, which is the closest enterprise option within that DXP, or large enterprise. And you can see similar things. You can see a site builder, which is Drupal to deliver these landing pages, but also the campaign studio that they have, and personalization, asset management, customer data platform. So you can see the same components coming back. A couple more quickly. There's also LifeRay. They also have personalization. There's content management. I think you get the gist of it here. And then the last big one is Episerver. You can see how much focus they put on visitor intelligence and customer data platform. Now, how can you make a compelling competitive offer on the market towards the mid-market? And that's actually using open components. And that's exactly what Dropsolid did. We're using the best of breed from the CMS part with Drupal, with marketing automation, with Mautic, with a customer data platform, and personalization using nomi, and then a whole product on top of it from Dropsolid to deliver these experiences. But it's still very vague. So let's get even more practical. Even Dries mentioned, and Dries is the founder of Drupal, as the Drupal community, we need to stop thinking of Drupal as the content management platform and start looking at it as a digital experience platform. And that's in 2014. Now, okay, let's take a look at Drupal as a digital experience platform. And let's take also a look why you should care. So in terms of the analysis that we've done of DXP, this is the summary of what we came to conclude. What is the DXP? It's not just a bucket of products. It's not a website. It's not a tool. It's not a one-way communication. It's also not standalone. You could have multiple tools. The average marketer has 6 to 8 marketing tools that he or she needs to actually communicate with the end user, whether it's businesses or visitors or consumers. There's many channels out there. It's also not a responsibility of IT nor marketing. It's also not monolithic. So this is what you can find if you Google what is a DXP in terms of capabilities. There's 3 pillars: experience, management, and platform. And what we'll do in this session is to take that apart and see what that means in the Drupal ecosystem to build such a DXP for a customer. Okay. So what Drupal does really well, I'll highlight in green. What it maybe can do after custom coding or intensive labor is highlighted in yellow. What it really cannot do is in red. I'm happy to have a discussion, but that's maybe for the Q&A. This is not set in stone. What Drupal does really well, in my opinion, is these green items, but it's a lot harder to keep a customer profile, to do voice and immersive elements in Drupal, or the whole authentication flow, maybe with external vendors, but still doable. If we talk about platform capabilities, it's a little less, but Drupal makes custom development really easy, allows integrations to be created. It's multi-channel and headless decoupled hybrid. It can do all of that, and it has a really vibrant development community. Now, when we talk about capabilities are a little less easy, we talk about ease of use for site visitors, and we've seen in the demo before what it actually can do, where it's going towards, but it's nearly impossible to do machine learning, natural language generation, neural networks, assisted decision making in a CMS. That's not what it's built for. And also not to empower users to make the right decision in an intuitive and attractive interface. And to go one step beyond, when we talk about the pillar in experience, this is what Drupal does really well: querying site, structure data, find stuff. But it's a lot harder to couple it with marketing automation tools to really get that end-to-end marketing journey or customer journey. It's also a lot harder to personalize the search, boost results with AI, and it's nearly impossible to do personalization and A/B testing within the context of a CMS as it is today, or change the site according to the intent. So what if we can actually change that? Let's see what we have. We have Drupal and a massive ecosystem. There's intensive integration with structured data and open source search engines. And there's many vendors for hosting your Drupal site on steroids. We can talk about Acquia, Platform SH, Pantheon, Dropsolid, Experience Cloud. Any of those are a perfect match for those capabilities and sites. But what are we missing? We're missing these items. We're missing marketing automation. We're missing customer data platform, personalization, and consent management. And what if I could give you the right ingredients to mix and match to actually get from this situation where everything was in red, remember the slide from before, towards this situation, just by adding a couple of standard components, and then with a little bit of configuration effort, and maybe a small bit of custom coding effort, you can actually get everything in green. So let's take a step back. Marketing automation. So what if we actually go from a CMS where you make forms and actually get everything within that CMS into a CMS plus marketing automation software? And for that, I'm going to show you Mautic. Mautic is an open source marketing automation solution that is very feature rich when it comes out of the box. What you see here is the front page of Mautic, and it's basically the intention to create contacts, or at least get the full customer journey or the visitor journey in here. There's also a calendar where you can see, okay, I have campaigns, marketing campaigns, what's next on the schedule, who will receive which email. So it's very great for that information. But obviously, we're interested in people and what they're actually doing on our site. So let's take a look at this employee of Dropsolid. This is Water. And Water has 78 points, which means he's highly engaged on our website. And we can also take a look at Water's history. If we take a look at Water's history, and we'll scroll down to the bottom in a bit, you can see water did a lot of activity. And first thing was in somewhere in January 2020, but the email was sent about the corona information towards Water, and we see that he opened up an email. Interesting information. But as soon as Water actually clicked on a link within an email, we started to track Water's activity on the website itself. So now we have a link, a multi-channel link between an email and the website, including the analytics on the website. So very interesting information, just to already know, okay, how do we start to engage with this customer? First thing you need to know is to know what the customer is doing. Okay, so to further fast forward a little bit, we can also actually manage assets in Mautic. Assets are, for example, gated white papers. And these are all ways to capture information from your end user to get either an email address or some way to identify that person. There's also forms that you can actually embed in websites. And here it gets interesting. We're actually moving away from web form because in web form, we had the information within Drupal, but we don't want that per se in Drupal. We want the marketeer to be in control. And you can see this is how you create forms in Mautic, and there's a name and some first name and email address, etc. And the actions is to send an internal follow-up email to, for example, sales, but also send the confirmation email to the end user itself that actually send the contact request. Now, how does this look like in a Drupal site? This is the Dropsolid site, and the Dropsolid site looks like this. And you don't really see a difference between the Drupal form or a Mautic form. Which is very interesting. Any change you make in the Mautic form will already be translated into the Drupal form without any code change. You don't need to redeploy the site. There is no need to actually even go into the site. The marketeer can do his or her job. And also the CMS can do what's really good at. And on top of that, you actually select within Drupal which form from Mautic you want to use on a paragraph level or a block level. So that's really easy to use. Now, if we move forward, what's also possible is to actually do an email builder, similar to if you maybe know MailChimp. And I'll do a little fast forward here, including campaigns. So this is the campaign builder. Feel free to take a look yourself on this video. But it's basically looking at actions and then with consequences do other actions. As soon as you have the email that you want to send out ready, you can actually look at statistics. So it's a full-blown marketing automation suite. How does this email look like? This is how it looks like. And if we want to edit this, it's just as easy. There's an editor. You can see exactly the same email. Okay. What else is in there? There's also focus items. Focus items are, for example, small pop-ups that are available on your site. And here, the interesting part is that you can actually preview this, create this within marketing automation within Mautic. And this is how it looks like on the website itself, on dropsolid.com. You can test this out yourself. It will show up after you, one, enable the cookies, and yeah, two, scroll to the middle of the page. Now that's enough about Mautic. You might wonder, okay, how about GDPR, all these things? And I'll dive into this topic also in more depth. But the interesting part here is that Chrome, and you can see this in the video, has automatically blocked a couple of cookies if I was in incognito or even in non-incognito. And you can see that the softwares that are running on the Dropsolid domain, which is our first-party data domain, are allowed automatically. If you take a look at what's blocked, we can see that Google Analytics is blocked, advertisements are blocked, Hotjar, LinkedIn, all of those are automatically blocked. This is really, really critical because I believe the future is in first-party data, in open data, not necessarily open for everyone, but at least your data. And this software allows you to do that. So this is a summary. Okay, how can we do the Mautic paragraph? And then we landed into the GDPR and consent management parts of a DXP. Now, Dropsolid helped with the EU cookie compliance module, and you can see our name here. But also here, I provided a small video. And for those that want to look at the video on a slower pace, I'm happy to provide that information to you after the session. We can see here that there's a cookie consent banner with necessary cookies, functional cookies, etc., statistical. We can accept all or select just a couple. And then save the preferences. And what it actually does in the background is it communicates with the Google Tag Manager. With the same ideology that the marketeer or whoever owns the cookie consent rules and the scripts necessary for tracking the data, or maybe other JavaScript necessities, should be managed by that specific person without being blocked on a development process. You can actually arrange the categories within Drupal itself, but then it gets interesting. Then it actually sends the Google Tag Manager information. I won't go in depth here, but we'll take a quick look at Google Tag Manager. And in Google Tag Manager, you can see that this is the trigger for functional. And only the scripts that are attached to that specific trigger will be loaded as soon as the person actually gives the opt-in and the consent for that specific category. This gives a major benefit for working with Drupal with the full compliancy tool where it's cookie consent, because it allows you to have a modal which is multilingual, which is themed in your brand style guide, and gives the best experience ultimately. So great stuff here as well if you want to move forward with privacy. Now, let's get into personalization. And within personalization, there's a whole, there's a lot of things going on. You could, and this is what many sites do today, include Hotjar and take a look at, okay, who clicks where, and then maybe do some A/B testing with colors, and you optimize your site, but you didn't personalize the site. You increased the conversion for the global audience. Interesting, but not necessarily the best for everybody. So what if you could actually go from here into unique experiences for specific segments? Also necessary is data. This is a screenshot from Google Data Studio implementation of Google Analytics, but also here we don't see, and this is a global information, we don't see what the different personas are that actually navigated on our website. What if we could actually go to something like this? I'll see if I have some time to show you the real life version, but this is Google Analytics, and on the left, it's a little tricky to see. You can see the different segments. I'll show you in a video in a bit how we create those segments, but it means that we now divided the traffic of Google Analytics in very different trajectories, and then see here in the goal conversion rate that some of those don't really have a high conversion rate. So even though they're 34% of all sessions, they only converted 1.3% compared to the other persona, 41%, which has almost a 3% conversion rate. So now we can start to optimize. How do we optimize? That's something that I'll show you here in this video. The video makes use of an installation profile, which is not Dropsolid, even though we do eat our own dog food. I also wanted to show you that this is not just a proof of concept, it's something that really is in use also in the wild. This also uses the layout builder, and for the technical people here, it makes use of Next.js in the follow-up of the video. So great landing page. What the intention of this demo is that I want to show the blocks that you see here to only the specific persona that fits within that name. So for example, if you're technical, you want to see technical decision making. If you want to see business, you want to see the block specifically for the business decision maker. What you see now is the Dropsolid platform and the Apache nomi software, which is embedded in the Dropsolid Experience Cloud. captures all that data and creates a UI and enables a UI for this specific site. Now, how do we actually get the different personas that are browsing on our site? It's not that easy. You could go into some people from Belgium, people from France, but ideally you use AI to help you with figuring out what's happening on your site. Similar to what Hotjar does for the global world, we can actually use segmentation or artificial intelligence to figure out, okay, give us 4 different groups. And that's exactly what happens here. Now, if I fast forward to this, because that takes a little while, we then have 4 different groups. It's up to you as a marketeer or as a person responsible for this functionality to take a look at the different word clouds and then say, okay, this one is technical, this one is more business. You can see on the left, it's very clear. It's all about vacancies and like job openings. And then, okay, we can move this and fast forward. Let's see how this works within my site. Now, remember we had the 4 blocks. What I want to do is to configure those blocks to only show for those specific personas that I detected in the traffic that I wanted to analyze. And you can see on the right within Drupal, you can find the same segments that are available in the personalization software. And we can say, okay, this block I only want to show to the segment community, etc., etc. Now, if we want to test this, we can go back to the site. There's a little tester or a little helper where you see the same segments which you created. And you click on one of those, and you should see the right block. So now we have important 4 different versions of the same front page depending on the intention of the people that are surfing the site. Now, for the technical people out there, this install profile from Sian comes with an Next.js frontend, and in the video you can see that I'm serious. That this is also the frontend with Next.js. Interesting. The same helper actually brings the same results because the layout builder structure and the data from Drupal with layout builder over APIs are actually taking the same logic into account. As in, I'm not allowed to show this block versus I'm allowed to show this block if the segments and the personas are right. So very interesting concept and also very developer friendly. Good. Let's proceed. So what I showed you now is Mautic. I showed you GDPR compliancy. I also showed you now the power of Apache and nomi to personalize and to actually get customer data in a specific platform, which is open. And that's exactly what the intention is of that software. It also has consent management so that you know when someone actually submitted to opt-in for your specific site, which is also important with the regulations of today. How do you use this within Drupal? There's a module called nomi on Drupal.org, which is supported by Dropsolid. It has support for local nomis, but also for the Dropsolid Experience Cloud personalization software, which is powered by nomi, but you get a lot more on top of that. There's also a JavaScript API, whether if it's in Next.js or within the browser, which is the Node version, and a PHP SDK. But how do we then connect all of these softwares together? This is the interesting concept or the interesting bit. You can actually make Mautic integrate with nomi and know what the intention is of a person within your marketing automation to send personalized email campaigns. If you want to know more about that, there's a couple of other webinars handling that topic. And I think last week was also one. And then with some simple snippets, you can send data from one to the other. Because it's first party, you're allowed to do this. You don't need to sign other processing agreements. You don't need to worry that it's a third-party data source. So you're just sending one to the other. And this is only possible within the Dropsolid DXP. So to summarize, be on the lookout for lock-in. Many of the vendors out there have great software as a service, but then ultimately, who owns your data and where is it stored? Are you really owning that solution? Do you know what happens in the long term? Some companies only have 10, 15 people. It could be really interesting today, but be careful. That's also why open source is so powerful. And that's also why I would suggest you follow the open core principle as much as you can. You do it already with Drupal, if you use Drupal, or with Matic, with Solar or other software that you might not even know, but still do use. Pay for support, maintenance, but not for licenses. So that's a summary of how we at Dropsolid believe that building an open digital experience platform is possible using core components such as Drupal for editorial experiences, Matic for amazing marketing automation journeys, and Nomi for consent management, customer data platform, and personalization. Making sure that those three really work well together. That's what we stand for, and that's what we do. And that's what I suggest you should explore too. That was, in a very nutshell, a really big topic within the scope of 32 minutes. Are there any questions that I could answer for you today?
Thank you, Nick. It was really a great session. So to the audience in the room, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, because obviously you were not able to speak, just like I am. In the meantime, I have a question for you, Nick. So
Sure.
assume I am, and it's not an assumption, I do, as as the chief marketing of Dropsolid, we have a Drupal website. What you've told sounds really incredible, but also incredibly complex. So how can I make my first steps from just a website to this amazing story that you put here?
Yeah. So indeed, if you already have a website and you kind of believe, okay, I do need to go forward and take steps, it's often really difficult to really say, okay, let's make a plan for DXP. It often doesn't go that way, and that's fine. Huh? So what you could do is to take small but achievable steps towards either marketing automation front or personalization, and then it depends. Where do you today have difficulties? Do you know what your identified people on the website are doing, and do you have already the journey in line, and do you know what you want to do? But maybe you're stuck with MailChimp and not really well enough integrations, and then trying to embed those forms into MailChimp. Well, then that might be a right option to take a look at a trial of Mautic. Maybe do half a day of intro with either us or with people within your organization. Again, it's open source. You can download and install it or run it through a trial. And just get that up and running and cover that box. If you already have that up and running, maybe you're using HubSpots or there's other software out there that could be just as good, but you're having difficulty in optimizing the conversion rate, and you actually want to figure out what's going on in your site, it could be very interesting to take a look at a trial of Dropsolid personalization or Nomi. Again, you can install that locally and see how far that brings you in just capturing information and reading that data. Going towards the full-fledged experience, yeah, that takes time. And you need to learn with small steps towards the bigger picture. And I'm sure then you'll be successful. Hopefully that answers your question, Alain.
It does, but is there a way without really starting a big project to start just some simple experiments with these open components on my website?
Sure. So if you go for the trials, I imagine you have that taken care of. You can just enable the tracking script from the Dropsolid personalization / Nomi. Keep it running. use the Dropsolid Experience Cloud to do the analysis of your data and just see what happens. If you then go one small step further to integrate with Google Analytics, you already have what I showed you before within maybe the concept of a couple of hours.
Okay, so first small step would be request a trial on the Dropsolid website.
If you want to go fast, yes. If you want to take full ownership locally, I'm not going to stop you from doing the technical installations.
All right.
But that depends on the needs, obviously.
Yeah. In the meantime, I see no other questions in the chat. So I think, unless someone still puts a question here, I think we can conclude the session. For the people in the audience, we will follow up with a small email with also a link to the slides and to the session, so you can watch it again later on, and you can also have a look at the videos that Nick showed you very quickly today. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Nick, for this great webinar, and that's it for today.
Yep. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.